Well, look, Ebola has a high mortality rate. Let's talk about this. Depending on the strain, the mortality rate can be as high as 70%, some people say 50%. And the outbreak in West Africa is killing people left and right. The latest numbers that I heard as we are sitting here today, World Health is predicting 10,000 cases a week in Liberia and the other West African nations in which it's prevalent. They're expecting a 70% case fatality rate as of now, if nothing changes. To what degree do you think is this high mortality rate due to lack of adequate care? And to what degree is it just due to the darn virus? And I'm not sure there's a way to parse that out.
It is very difficult to parse those things out. And my own opinion is that I've never been a fan of percentages. These are subject to change depending on technology, our better understanding of viral behavior and its pathogenicity and new treatments. So to say to one person, it's a 1 in a million shot, and that person gets it, it's 100% for them.
You had the same professor I did, didn't you?
Well, perhaps. But not only that, when you have an illness that starts spreading in a major populated area, these numbers are not just out there for no reason. I think that they're trying to create an awareness. Some might say they're trying to create panic.
Well, I'm not sure
it is an enormous problem in Africa, and we cannot really comprehend it.
I'll give you just a personal anecdote. This morning, I was going to work and I took a taxi. My cab driver was from West Africa. And I asked about his family. And he said, well, his mom's dead. His 2 sisters were dead. There were funerals all around them. And I said, had you gone home? He said, no.
Well, he's rather wise to curtail his travel, and that's something that people should think twice about doing.
It's easy to talk about Ebola until it hits your family, until it's the cab driver sitting right in front of you, a human being who's lost his family. This is a big, big problem, whether it's in West Africa or the United States.
And it's interesting, too, that HIV infection is so rampant in the African continent, in sub-Saharan Africa, that it's almost off the radar. It's not even news anymore, which dwarfs the number of Ebola cases, frankly. And
for now.
But it's a little bit harder to get.
Well, that's the other thing that I think doctors have failed to communicate, and then the public has failed to appreciate. It's much harder to get AIDS than Ebola.
You certainly don't have to have sexual contact to get Ebola infection.
No. So there's a lot going on in the third world. The lack of high-tech healthcare is certainly one thing, the virus itself, and then the living conditions of the population. What is it about the poor populations in West Africa that makes it easier to spread a disease like this?
I believe that there's probably poverty, malnutrition, intercurrent illnesses of all kinds, and there are social and economic factors and educational ones. There are belief systems are not right in line with Western medicine, and there might be distrust. So there's a lot of factors that add up to the spread of these things. Common practices would have the women preparing dead bodies for burial, and they subsequently became ill when it was an Ebola case. And the men are out, doing their thing and being exposed to the animals and what they call bush meats for consumption, and that's been a known vector for the Ebola virus.
And sanitation in the third world is another issue.
Correct.
The lack of plumbing. This is a disease which produces enormous diarrhea.
Right, and we don't understand that as Americans, that there's not even running water some of these places, and they need an awful lot of help.